Hey guys, and welcome back. Today is lesson number 17 of the Operations of the Real Numbers course. I'm Mrs. Cofield, and I'm delighted to talk to you guys today about division. We're going to talk about its definition, dividing integers, fractions, and mixed numbers. Are you guys ready? Then let's go and dig in. So here we go. Now the first thing that we want to do is review what we've been talking about for a while. I told you guys that there are two main operations on the real numbers. Does anyone out there remember what they are? You absolutely got it right. Those are addition and multiplication. And you might ask, what about subtraction? Well, we already talked about subtraction. And remember what we said? We said the subtraction is really just addition of the opposite. So now that brings us to division. What about division? Well, guys, I hope you have your notebooks ready and your pencils handy, because today you are going to discover that division is it's just multiplication by the reciprocal. So today I want you to write this in your notes. Division is really just multiplication by the reciprocal. And by reciprocal, I mean the flip. So today our sound effect we're going to use when we say flip, we're going to be like, so that's going to be our reciprocal noise, okay? So we're really just going to flip it. So if you wanted to put it in English, it'll look a little like this. When you divide by a number, you multiply by the reciprocal. Again, when you divide by a number, you multiply by the reciprocal. See? Division is really just multiplication by the reciprocal. Okay? So let's keep going. I want you guys to try some examples today, and you're going to see just how simple this is. Because remember how simple multiplication was? It was like super simple. I can't even emphasize it enough. Let's go. So we're going to divide 2/3 divided by 5/7. Now remember what I said, okay? So if we're dividing by 5/7, then what that really means is that we are multiplying by its reciprocal, which is 7/5. You see how we flipped it there? So that becomes 2/3 times 7/5. And we know how to multiply fractions, the simple stuff, right? We multiply straight across. So that's 2 times 7, which gives us 14, and 3 times 5 gives us 15. We end up with 14/15. Beautiful. Wasn't that simple, guys? And y'all thought division was going to be something difficult? No, it's so simple because it's really multiplication of the reciprocal. Let's try another one. Here we go. In this case, it's 1/2 divided by 4. Now don't let that whole number throw you off, because we know if we wanted to divide using fractions, then really that 4, what is that 4 really as a fraction? 4 as a fraction? Yep, you got it right. That's 4/1. So I want you guys to start thinking ahead. So to divide by 4 really means to multiply by its reciprocal, which is 1/4. So we end up with 1/2 times 1/4. And now we can multiply straight across. So that's 1/2 times 1/4. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 4 is 8. We end up with 1/8. I'm telling you, when you get that little move together, this division stuff becomes like super simple, right? All right, so let's keep moving. What's next? So now we're going to talk about the integers. You all remember some things we said about the integers. So an example, for example, it might be like 8 divided by -4. So we're talking about our positive numbers, our negative numbers, and 0. That's what I mean by the integers. But before we go too far with this, let's do a quick review. When we covered multiplication a while back, we said that a positive times a positive is a positive times a negative equals a negative times a positive equals a negative, and a negative times a negative, well, that's a positive. Now that's important to remember, because think about it. How do you all suppose this might correlate to division? Any ideas out there? Well, as you're thinking about it, it's time for the great reveal. Guess what? It's exactly the same. So a positive divided by a positive equals a positive. A positive divided by a negative equals a negative. A negative divided by a positive equals a negative. And finally, a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. So, if you guys can remember these, it's going to help you a lot as we work with division and integers. Let's go ahead and go back to that example I said. So we have 8 divided by negative 4. Well, we already know that 8 divided by 4 is 2, but in this case we know the answer is negative 2. For what reason? We just said it. A positive divided by a negative equals a negative. Therefore, 8 divided by a negative 4 equals negative 2. Beauteous. Now, if you guys can get that one, then I have no question about it that you're going to get the next one. Let's try it. Here we go. We're going to divide. This time, negative 15 divided by negative 3. Now, notice I said divided by, but if you look at it, it kind of looks like a fraction. Well, true story. If you guys remember what we said a while back as well, fractions correspond to division. Therefore, it's no question why negative 15 over negative 3 is really negative 15 divided by negative 3, okay? So just keep that in mind because sometimes we won't put that old school division symbol. Sometimes we'll just put, that divided by symbol as a fraction, So here we go. If we do negative 15 divided by negative 3, remembering what we just said about a negative divided by a negative, we know that our answer is going to be what? Yes, it's going to be positive, and that's a positive 5 because negative 15 divided by negative 3 equals positive 5. Beautiful. See, I knew you guys could get it. Let's keep going, okay? So, in our next example, what we're going to do now is work on some fractions. But wait a second. We kind of started with fractions. When I showed you guys the whole flip thing, we were already using fractions. So this is going to be nothing, right? So I think that's even simpler. But here we go. So this time we're going to divide 4/5 divided by a 1/6, okay? That's 4/5 divided by 1/6. Okay, so considering what I said, if you're dividing by 1/6, then that really means that you are multiplying by 6 over 1 because we take that and we flip it, and that's multiplying by a reciprocal, which is known as a flip, and now we can multiply straight across, okay? So let's multiply the numerators and then the denominators. 4 times 6 gives us 24, and 5 times 1 equals 5. So our final answer is 24/5. Beautiful. Easy, right? Super easy, right? I'm telling you, multiplication and division, easy. All right, let's try another one. All right, this time we're going to do 2/9 divided by 1/4. Oh, don't let this throw you off. It looks a little bit like that other example I just told you. Sometimes we're going to use just that little, fraction bar that you're used to, but we're going to use it for division because, again, fractions correspond to division. So now, again, 2/9 divided by 1/4. Now, if that's the case, think about it. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to take that number right there, that 1/4, and we're going to flip it, and we're going to end up with 2/9 divided by 1/4 equaling 2/9 times 4 over 1. Because when you flip 1/4, you're going to get 4 over 1, right? Good. Now we know how to do this part. This is the simple part. Multiplication of fractions, straight across. 2/9 times 4 over 1. So 2 times 4 gives us 8, and 9 times 1 gives us 9. Our final answer, ladies and gentlemen, is 8/9. Beautiful. Let's go on to another guy. And now for this guy, we're going to do 7/15 divided by 7/10. Now, you're going to notice something here, but I'll wait till we get to it to explain it, okay? So think about everything we've ever talked about, all those different concepts, and let's see how they come into place right here. So again, 7/15 divided by 7/10. So if we're dividing by 7/10, what we're really doing is multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 10/7, right? That's 10/7. So 7/15 times 10/7. Now, I was going to say let's multiply straight across, but do you all notice anything here? Ooh, yeah. This is one of those fancy guys, right? You remember these guys. This is one of those guys where if you look at those numbers, we can do some stuff like simplify ahead of time by using the commutative property of multiplication. So let's go ahead and switch those numbers around, and we're going to end up now with 7/7 times 10/15. So we just switched those denominators around real quick. But you notice what we have as a result? Ooh, 7/7. That's known as a 1, okay? So we can get rid of that 1. Ooh, and then we're going to end up with 1 times 2/3 because we know that 10/15, 5 goes into both of those. How many times? 2. It goes into 10 twice, and then it goes into 15 3 times. So we end up with 1 times 2/3. And if we multiply straight across from here, we're going to end up with simply 2/3. Beautiful. Always look out for those opportunities to simplify in advance by using that commutative property of multiplication, okay? It makes your life a lot easier. You don't want to end up with a big, crazy number when you can just get this easy guy out of the way, right? All right, great work. That didn't catch you slipping, right? So let's keep moving forward and see what's next. Ooh, my favorite, mixed numbers. Now, I know we've talked about mixed numbers in the past. We've talked about it as we've added, as we've, multiplied, and as we've subtracted. And usually, what do we say about those? Do we like mixed numbers? What do we do about those? Well, in this case, division is not going to be much different than those other guys. Whenever we're working with mixed numbers, to divide mixed numbers, convert them to fractions. Because we don't work with those guys. Those guys, they got to go, okay? So again, to divide mixed numbers, convert to fractions, okay? So let's go ahead and give it a try. Put on your converting cap because we're about to take those mixed numbers and tell them they got to hit the road. Let's go. Hit the road, Jack. Woo! All right. So we have 2 1/3 divided by 1 1/5. Woo! So we're going to get straight to it. Y'all know how to get rid of these guys. Let's go ahead and put on our converting caps. And now let's convert. Now we know that 3 times 2 plus 1, that gives us what? 7. So now we have 7/3, and then that 5 times 1 plus 1, that gives us 6/5. So now we have 7/3 divided by 6/5, right? And now, I just told you guys what we do. In order to divide fractions, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, in other words, the flip. So we're going to flip that 6/5, and when we turn upside down, we're going to end up with 7/3 times 5/6, okay? Now in this case, of course, we can just multiply straight across because multiplying fractions is so easy. Now 7 times 5 is 35, and 3 times 6 is 18. We end up with 35/18. Wonderful job, guys. So proud of y'all. So let's try one more of these guys. Now in this case, we're going to do the whole number 4 divided by 3.5. Again, that's 4 divided by 3.5. Now remember what we just said. We don't mess with these mixed numbers. This guy got to go. But before we even get rid of that guy, we know that 4 as a fraction is what? Yes, 4 as a fraction is 4/1. Now let's go ahead and convert. What would that 3.5 look like? Yes, you multiply 2 times 3. That's 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So technically that will be 7/2, right? So we're going to end up with 4 divided by 7/2. Now, we know what we got to do next. In order to divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal, and that's going to be like this, right? So that to divide by 7/2 means to multiply by 2/7. So we end up with 4/1 times 2/7, okay? Now what do you all want to do next? You got it. Multiply straight across. 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 2 is 7. We simply end up with 8 sevens. And even though it looked like it was looking, you know what I mean? It was not that hard in the end, right? So technically, 4 divided by 7 halves gives us 8 sevens. Beautiful. Okay, guys, I feel like we kind of just like went through this thing with the quickness. Like, wow, time flies when you're having fun, right? Well, I hope you guys had a lot of fun because I did. So remember those things that we said. Multiplying by the reciprocal, that's really what division is all about, okay? So just take that thing and flip it, okay? All right. So again, that was lesson number 17, talking about division, its definition, dividing integers, fractions, and mixed numbers. You all keep up the excellent work, and I look forward to seeing you guys on tomorrow for lesson number 18. All right. Have a great day. Bye.